When you walk into a corporate office today, what do you actually see? Are you looking at a space that was designed just to look pretty, or is there something much more purposeful, maybe even psychological, happening right under the surface? Today, we're going to take a real spatial walkthrough of the modern workspace to answer exactly that.
Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here with us. Today, we're taking what's essentially a cinematic tour through the anatomy of a high-end corporate interior. So if you're someone who loves seeing how form actually meets function in the real world, you are in the exact right place.
Think of me as your architectural guide for this tour. Here's our floor plan for the next few minutes. First, we'll unpack the whole concept of the new corporate workspace. Then, we'll check out modern lounge areas, explore some incredibly high-tech meeting rooms, navigate fluid open office layouts, and finally, synthesize the real impact of all this smart design.
All right, let's step right in. Section 1, the new corporate workspace. We are moving way beyond the old cubicle farm.
For decades, we all kind of knew the standard drill, right? The traditional cubicle farm. Endless rows of isolated boxes under really harsh fluorescent lighting. But thankfully, that model is rapidly becoming obsolete. To understand why, we need to define what we mean by smart corporate design. It's the strategic integration of technology, comfort, and fluid layouts to purposefully boost productivity and employee well-being. And I really want to emphasize that word, purposefully. This isn't just about throwing a ping-pong table in a break room and calling it a day. It is a highly deliberate, calculated balance of hardcore utility and genuine human comfort.
To pull that balance off, architects lean on a few foundational pillars. We're talking about creating purpose-driven spaces, achieving seamless technological integration, having a massive focus on employee comfort, and creating fluidity between different work zones. Okay, enough theory. Let's actually dive into this and see how these pillars look in practice. Which brings us to Section 2, and a very first stop on our tour, modern corporate lounge areas. These are spaces built entirely for informal comfort. Just take this space in for a second. At first glance, doesn't it feel almost like a high-end living room? We've got these incredibly inviting, soft gray sofas arranged specifically to encourage conversation. But notice how it's positioned right next to a functional workspace and anchored by a massive presentation screen. It's really the perfect blend of informal comfort and absolute functional utility.
Let's break down exactly what makes this particular room work so beautifully. Look at the slotted wood ceilings overhead and the geometric, warm wood-paneled walls. They aren't just there to look good, they actually bring warmth and crucial acoustic dampening to the room. And look at how that comfortable seating directly faces the large presentation screen. Plus, it's completely open to the more traditional desk space right next to it, which makes transitioning from focused solo work to relaxed group discussion entirely frictionless.
The absolute genius here is how the layout naturally dictates behavior. Imagine a team is sitting at that desk, and they hit a roadblock on a project. Instead of having to log out, pack up, and book a formal conference room 3 floors down, they just pivot to the sofas. They can casually brainstorm and within seconds cast their references right onto that big screen to review together. It's where comfort meets utility without ever breaking that creative momentum.
To really appreciate this, we kind of have to contrast it with what we typically think of as work. Informal collaboration, like we just saw, thrives on lounge seating and organic, spur-of-the-moment discussions. But a truly smart office also desperately needs spaces for structured productivity, places with designated seating, uniform tech setups, and isolated environments where you can just put your head down for deep focus. To see that side of the coin, we need to take a quick walk down the hall. Stepping into Section 3, high-tech meeting rooms. This is the engine for structured productivity.
Wow. Right? The shift in energy is immediate. As we step into this room, the vibe goes straight from relaxed to highly structured. The striking, perfectly symmetrical layout of this space instantly sets a tone of deep focus. This is the room where the heavy lifting gets done.
Let's deconstruct some of the high-tech features going on here. We have this massive, long wooden conference table anchored under a really distinct dark wood grid ceiling. Up front, there's an overhead projection system currently displaying some seriously complex 3D architectural modeling software. Now, what's really fascinating about this specific setup is the deliberate uniformity of the laptops. Literally every single seat is identically equipped. Why? Because it removes all technical friction. When a team walks in here, they sit down, they're plugged in, and they are ready to perform instantly. But look out to the sides, those floor-to-ceiling glass partitions. Why do these matter so much? Well, back in the day, a secluded meeting room meant a dark, windowless box that felt like a bunker.
Here, the glass provides that necessary acoustic isolation so private conversations actually stay private, but it maintains visual transparency. And more importantly, it lets natural light distribute all the way through the building. And let me tell you, that is an absolute game changer for office morale and sustaining employee energy levels throughout the day.
So, we've seen where people relax, and we've seen where they intensely focus. Let's step out of that glass meeting room and explore Section 4, Fluid Open Office Layouts, the connective tissue of the building.
As we emerge into this space, you can just immediately feel the breathability of the architectural design. This isn't just a hallway to get from point A to point B. It's a wide, expansive corridor that actively integrates with the surrounding workspaces. It feels incredibly open, incredibly fluid.
Let's navigate this open space together. Guide your eyes up to the ceiling for a second. See those striking, linear black lighting fixtures? They're purposefully arranged to act almost like runway lights, subconsciously guiding your foot traffic right down the wide corridor. Now look over to your right. Instead of putting up solid drywall, they're using light wood cabinetry to divide the space. And, perched right on top of those cabinets, are integrated planters completely filled with trailing greenery. Here's a surprising fact. Research actually shows that adding just a few natural elements like this to an office environment can boost cognitive function and productivity by as much as 15%. That's huge. And just past that living greenery, you can clearly see the open office area populated with those highly ergonomic teal chairs.
So what is the core why behind this specific setup? Well, the inclusion of those planters is tied to a concept known as biophilic design. Bringing a touch of nature indoors isn't just to make it look nice. As that 15% stat just proved, it's a heavily researched, calculated move to reduce psychological stress and boost your well-being. Combined with the open sightlines that literally let you see your colleagues working nearby, it completely eliminates that claustrophobic feeling of the old cubicle days. It fosters a genuine, tangible sense of community.
All right, we've toured all the individual components, and now it's time to bring it all together. Let's move to Section 5, Impact of Smart Design, Building the Cohesive Machine.
Look at the lounge area and the open corridor side by side right here. And this brilliantly illustrates the real genius of the overall architecture. Notice how the warm wood paneling we saw back in the lounge carries perfectly into the cabinetry of the open workspace? The modern, clean aesthetic is completely consistent throughout. Even though the functions of these rooms couldn't be more different, they speak the exact same visual language. It proves the office has a unified flow, preventing that jarring, disjointed feeling you get when walking between mismatched departments. When we step back and look at the cohesive smart office as a whole, the key takeaways become crystal clear. It relies heavily on consistent materials, the warm woods, the glass partitions, those sleek lines. It relies on an uninterrupted technological ecosystem where screens and laptops are always exactly where you need them. And above all, it strikes a harmonious balance between areas for isolated deep work and areas for spontaneous collaboration. All of this works together like a well-oiled machine to achieve one primary goal: an elevated employee experience. What you should really take away from all this is that a thoughtfully designed workspace is no longer viewed as just a necessary overhead cost. It is a strategic tool. By deliberately designing spaces that cater to how human beings actually think, interact, and focus, companies are seeing a direct return on their investment through significantly enhanced morale and much higher daily output.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. As remote work and digital connectivity continue to expand globally, the physical office basically has to justify its own existence. It has to be a destination. So, based on the incredible, purposeful spaces we've explored today, in an increasingly digital world, how will physical office spaces continue to evolve to make us actually want to come into work? It's definitely something to think about the next time you step through those corporate glass doors. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.